All right, hey traders, TG Watkins here. Let's see if we got everything up and running. Should be good on all the platforms. All right, so thank you for tuning in for the day. If you guys are wanting more information about me, you come over to profitpilot.com. And other than that, let's go into the markets and see what's going on. Microsoft, I think that's pretty much the news of the day, had earnings. Now, they were up in the overnight, so let's go show you kind of what they were looking like in the overnight after hours session. Because, yeah, look at that. They were up quite a bit. Looked pretty good. And then I guess all the fairy dust kind of wore off and their future guidance was down. So they did well initially as far as their revenue this quarter, last quarter, but their future guidance, they were kind of saying, oh, we're going to not be doing too well, something like that. And so I think that's where the move came down. So I think that was a bit of an effect on the market today. Of course, we're coming into earnings season, so that's going to be having some effect. Now, what I will say is I think we're kind of in a test. So for what the market is doing, this pullback that we're seeing, we're going to have to see. Is this going to be into strength? Is it going to find some support? Are other tickers going to be able to hold up well? And are we going to kind of move on from this? Or is this going to be kind of degradation and we're going to see the breadth kind of melt away and things are going to degrade and we're going to go back down? So that's kind of where we're at. Obviously, the market's been going sideways for a while recently, but then even like in big scheme of things, it's been going sideways. So we really just kind of keep needing more time. So if we look at the charts, though, what I've been noticing is, we talked about for Microsoft, we had a double bottom here. And then this last move down, we had price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0. That's a trampoline move. So, and you can see here, we also had that one on the hourly chart, price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0. So, trampoline move. It's a bullish situation. Price is below the 50 with the Moxie indicator above 0, meaning basically it's a dip. And we just need to then confirm when that dip starts, comes out of the dip so that we can work with it. So now we are here again underneath the 50, Moxie indicator above 0, and same thing with the daily chart. So we're going to have to give this time to see if this is going to repair itself and be able to get back on top of moving averages, or if this is going to come up here, degrade and stay under and go like that, and if the Moxie indicator is going to roll under. So we really don't have enough information right now, mostly because we've just been going sideways for several days. And if we kind of back out a little bit on Microsoft, and we look at the higher time frame charts, we've been seeing this across the board for a lot of tickers and for the markets as a whole, and I'll get to that too. Microsoft, along with I think the NASDAQ and the SPY, all at the monthly 50. So for now, it's finding support, but it's getting wedged between the 50 and the 10. Which way is it going to go? And so we're looking here also at the weekly chart. We can see prices here at the weekly 200, so that's another area of support. And there is a double bottom. Now, what I always say, all right, we might hear the dog bark because it looks like a delivery person's coming up, but we'll see. All right, so the other thing about double bottoms is that they work when they work. Otherwise, it's a resting place until price goes lower. And that's what I like to always say, because if you look at this double bottom situation, right here, if it's going to fail, well then this second retest of the prior low, so the second bottom, the double bottom, if that doesn't hold, then really it was a resting place until price wants to go lower, because what's happening is everybody here, all the traders here, noticed and saw that price bounced the first time, and now that price is back to that area that was support initially, they're trying to figure out if it's going to hold or not. And if it holds, great, it's a double bottom and you go up. If it doesn't hold, well, then, that, as I said, it was everybody resting there, trying to figure out, trying to, fight over this and figure out if it's going to work. And if it doesn't, well, resting place until it goes lower. So we are right there. And we just simply don't have enough information to figure out which way it's going to go, because we are still in that battle. We're still just going sideways. And that you can see largely, we have really just been sideways in this situation. As an example of the prior, say, double bottom that didn't work, that was a resting place until price goes lower, you can see that there was a level right there, there's a double bottom, that was a resting place until price went lower. And if we come over here to, say, the daily chart and look at that, let me get my hourly right there, let's get our cursor lined up. So you can see here's the level, there was the retest of the low area. And what I like to do is I like to use the next lower time frame to figure out, hey, is this going to hold or not? And on the hourly chart, you could see that price was not going to hold that prior low, because if you look at the hourly chart, nothing said bullish. You can see that this was an inverse trampoline move, so price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And then you can see the hourly 50 was in a downtrend, and price never held the 50. So there was nothing here that said bullish. So now let's take a look and say, where are we at now? And you can see here we've got that level, and for now, I got to give a little bit of a leg up to the bulls and say, well, at least according to the indicator, it's a fighting chance, because we do have price. We have the Moxie indicator above 0, whereas before you could see the Moxie indicator was below 0. This one is actually a trampoline move, so it is a bullish condition until it otherwise changes. And we look here on the hourly chart, and again, we have the Moxie indicator above 0, and we have price trying to stay over the hourly 50, whereas before, price could not hold the hourly 50, and the Moxie indicator was below 0. So it does look different. It does look like it's trying to be bullish, and it's making a fighting chance. But we're just going to have to wait and see, because it hasn't started trending yet. I mean, clearly this isn't trending yet. It is still chopping around and through those moving averages, but it is at least trying to move up, and we'll have to see if that can maintain itself. So that seemed to kind of be the news today and all that kind of stuff. All right, yeah, let me know if you guys have any tickers that you want to be looking at, because of course you guys see things, see different things out there, and I'd love to get a little bit more perspective and see what's happening with the market. So top spin, let's see, VTRS. Let's see what's going on with this one. Yeah, I don't know this one. And if we come over here, let's look at the higher time frames. I always like to do this. And this has been, looking at this, a name like this is another kind of case and reason why I'm trying to lean on the bullish side for the market. I know that this is a very highly contentious area that we're with the market. Recession coming up, and earnings coming up, and the Fed tightening and all that kind of stuff. And look, I get it. So I'm not trying to stake my reputation to this or anything, but I am looking around out there. The breadth internals are looking much better than they were in August. They're actually looking pretty good, and we are seeing that there are a lot of names that have been trying to base and bottom. And then we just saw a lot of activity in China, and we did see a pretty good move off the low in December into January. And we also have been seeing that VIX and UVXY have not been able to find any traction. So all these things kind of say bullish to me. And we've also seen the dollar come down. We've seen interest rates come down through the market. TNX, we've seen TLT come up. These are all bullish situations. So, then I look at individual names like this and say, for what the Fed and the market was trying to accomplish, basically taking the froth out of everything and saying, look, we need to pop this bubble. Like, there's the bubble. And we need to get these things back down to something that's reasonable. Well, we've done that. I mean, a name like VTRS is back to its pre-COVID levels. I mean, even longer. Where was COVID? Where was that? Gosh, this name didn't even have a COVID bubble, did it? Okay, so much for that one. I was thinking this was a different time scale, the 2015. But if you look at Pinterest, this is like what Pinterest looks like, up for 2020 and then back down. And so, yeah, this thing has come all the way back down here. Now, I'd have to see, is this going to be a name that actually has some energy and excitement to it? I don't know. I need to look into it a little bit more. But Topspin, as far as what you're looking at, and probably why you're bringing this to my attention, is I am seeing that price is now over the monthly 10. So we'll have to see if that holds. You can see that it's had a few other false starts that didn't really work. So we kind of keep digging deeper to figure out if anything's going to happen. You can see here, did not hold the weekly 50. Did not hold the weekly 50, did not hold the weekly 50. So basically on these higher time frames, every time it did get over a moving average, it couldn't hold it. So if this is going to be different, then it's going to have to actually hold these moving averages at some point. So same thing here, can price hold, say, the weekly 21, the weekly 50, the weekly 30, something around there. Let's kind of take a little bit closer look down here on the daily chart. Okay, so we have some progress here. Price has been holding the daily 50, that's great. And the 50 has crossed over the 200, so that's good too. But, with this market, it seems like we kind of get up, we rest for a little bit, and we'll have to see when the next leg is. I'm not sure I see that yet, mostly because on the hourly chart, you can see we have an inverse trampoline move, and you have a Moxie price trigger. So basically, the energy and momentum via the Moxie indicator are now down and negative. So it seems to me you're probably going to have to wait a little bit. One thing I do typically see, and maybe you guys want to take a note on this for your experiences, is that oftentimes when we get a change of trend, meaning that if the 200, and again, this can be true for the hourly chart or the daily chart, but when the 200 is in a downtrend and the 50 is below the 200, so everything is in a downtrend, and you're trying to change that trend to now, start moving up, you'll get the 50 to cross over the 200. That's kind of the first step as far as moving averages go, because right, you get now the fast moving average over the slow moving average. That's a change of trend. Well, and you can see that's happened here on VTRS. Now, the thing I was going to be saying is that oftentimes, we will see price hold the 50, but oftentimes, sometime in the future, we do see price dip below the 50, but stay above the 200, and that is the dip that confirms support and if price can go higher. If you want an example of that, right there. So you see here how the 50 crossed over the 200, and then you see how price then dipped below the 50 but held the 200. You can even see it did it again here, and that was what helped confirm the uptrend on that time frame. So for something like VTRS, right now doesn't look to be the right time to be in it. So just, I would say, don't be surprised if price wants to dip below the daily 50, preferably stay above the daily 200, and see if that can hold. And if it can hold, then that could be the dip confirmation for support, and it could be the next move up. And you can see again here on the hourly chart, that's the example that I would be using. All right, so Newmont. Let's look at some gold stuff. Yeah, did everybody notice that the whole stock market had glitches yesterday? I forget how many hundreds of names were affected, but you can see stuff like this. So hopefully that didn't run you over. They are going to be busting a lot of trades, meaning that if you got improperly filled or your stop got taken erroneously, they will just erase it. But I hear that there are still a lot of names and a lot of trades that they won't be doing that for. So some people made money and some people lost money. Fingers crossed that you guys came out all right on that. So we kind of ignore that craziness right there. And for now, yeah, I would be saying that, gold, obviously gold prices are up. I mean, gold is up. So we would expect the gold miners to be up too. Now, my only concern is that I look at GDX, and GDX is like, sky high. And it's kind of getting to a point where I feel as though we would be chasing moves to the upside because it's already had a really, really good move. And if I feel that way about GDX, then I wonder if individual gold miner stocks are kind of coming into the same situation. For Newmont, it is looking pretty good. It is holding, say, the 21 EMA on the daily chart. And well, actually, the hourly chart could be a little sketchy. It's just, it's very close to being zero and kind of right here. What I wonder in through here is for Newmont, if you're running into the 200 and if it might need to kind of come back and test or check up on the daily 50 at some point. So, might need to just kind of do a little test like that if the 50 is going to be support. If not, then just keep watching to see if the 21 is going to be support. If the 21 can continue to be support, then great, we'll be moving up like that. But if I show you GDX, it just seems like I just don't know. I mean, I don't know how much further this thing can go or keep going. It's been an uptrend. It's a little bit messy for what I look for, and it has not touched the 50 this entire time. So that just kind of makes me think, at some point price does typically like to test the daily 50. And remember, like what I was saying about VTRS, is here is the 50 crossing over the 200. So typically at some point price does like to come back down and test either the 50 or dip below the 50 when you've got that transition period. I mean, you can see it numerous times as it was transitioning on the hourly chart. So I don't know. If it continues to move up, great. See if this thing can stay above the daily 21 and all that kind of stuff. But I look at that and think, I wonder how far it can go. GLD, kind of the same thing. It's like, man, this thing is really getting up there. So, if gold itself is kind of getting pretty frothy, I mean, what are the chances that it's going to stay up there and then GDX and Newmont will stay up? Like, if gold needs to do a pullback, what will the gold miners do? And I just look at this and say, you know what, that's getting pretty frothy up there at the daily chart. And again, very far away from the daily 50. And, we could be saying that there's some negative divergence right there on the hourly. We could say that there's some negative divergence kicking in near term. So, I kind of feel like the gold trade's getting a little bit long in the tooth. That's my read on things. All right, so NDX AC, let's take a look at this. Yesterday, when I was on the mic with you guys in the Mox room, I said that we should be kind of expecting a pullback for the NDX. Because if you look yesterday, where were we? We're pretty overbought. There's a big gap here between price and the 8 EMA. And you can see here that there was price was up at the third ATR. So it had gone from lower third ATR to upper third ATR. Now, of course, I didn't expect this to be necessarily this stiff or this much of a pullback across the board. There were quite a few names that did get hit with this. But you can look at that, and basically the market went from one low to the other low, or to the other high. Went from the third ATR to the upper third ATR. I mean, it basically crossed the range. And so it seems to me it could probably use a little bit of back in filling, a little bit of resting, and we'll see if it needs to take a little break and recoup, and then we'll see if we can actually go higher from here. As I said, I'm not going to be stapling my reputation to this or anything, but I do look at this and I say, we've got a pretty good double bottom going on here. Now, again, that doesn't mean it's going to work. It's not confirmed yet, but I would be looking at that and saying it's giving itself a fighting chance. Because remember, a double bottom works when it works. Otherwise, it's a resting place until price goes lower. And if we look at the SPY, and we're seeing some progress here too. If you guys remember, we talked about the Fibonacci's. I mean, we could pull back 50% already, and NDX and the Nasdaq pulled back to the 618 retracement. So they already came back to some support. And then I look at this and I say, there's a inverse head and shoulders. So I kind of wonder if that's going to be able to work. And then the next step is, can we continue to stay over the trend line? Can we get over the moving average? Can we get over the monthly moving average? All that. And if I then look at the Dow, we're over these moving averages. We're looking pretty good. Now, can we flag? So that's what I'm looking at is, now that we're over, can we hold the moving average, and is it going to be able to go up? And same thing here. Can we stay over these moving averages on the daily chart or weekly chart? Can we stay over the weekly 50, weekly 21, weekly 30? We're over them right now. Can we stay that way? Or is this really just a massive glorified bounce and a downtrend? So those are things looking at. Let's see. Perch. Did Perch find some support? Yeah, it's back to where we were yesterday. It would have stopped us out. So, whether we do that now or do it later. Yeah, so Terry, I'm kind of looking at this, and I've got a debate between, is price going to hold the 21 EMA, or is price going to need the daily 50, 50, 200, 50 maneuver? So that's kind of what I was wondering, because a lot of these names were looking pretty good and looked like they wanted to go higher before they pulled back, and they just started pulling back sooner than I expected. And if we then look at some other things, like just Intel, just an example of kind of what I'm seeing out there. So if we look at this, and this is why I'm saying that the potential or the possibility for bullishness, or at least for components of the market to be trying to hammer out a bottom. I mean, look at that double bottom right there. I mean, that's looking pretty good. You can see that Intel clearly was in a downtrend this whole time. And then what did it do? It's basically said to me, I'm done going down. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily go up. These things can go sideways for a while. Let me just show you DRN. It's just an ETF that I'm thinking, well, actually, that one still looks like a pretty good elf shoe. Look at that elf shoe. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot. Are we going to get an elf toe? So I look at that and say, gosh, we're putting in a higher low. It's a double bottom, all that kind of stuff. Elf shoe. And it sure looks to me like they are really trying to put in some lows here and trying to build some support. trying to base. Now, these things can base for a long time. They don't have to go up. But I do look at this and say, I think a lot of things have already been repriced, and they are not interested in going lower. So we will have to see if the overall market wants to go lower while these things are basically hibernating. And if the market does go lower, then I would be expecting money to be rotating from the market and from Apple, Tesla, Amazon, from all these big cap names that are still, relatively high. I would expect them to start rotating money from them into names like this. Trying to think, Etsy, even Etsy's starting to climb up like this. They're making progress. So I look at this and just say, hey, there are names out there that have already bottomed, and we'll have to see if they can continue to make some upward progress. The challenge, though, is in the bottoming process like that, you get a lot of sideways movement, a lot of chop. And that's fine for, let me get over here, that's fine for institutions who, can kind of build a position and hang on to it for a very long time. It's a little bit harder for us as, say, swing traders, because where in here can we find an exact place to kind of get in and then ride this? As it turns out, earnings, and then here it did hold the hourly 50, and that was kind of where it set off. But man, to figure out whether that one's going to work or that one was going to work, it's challenging to know which one was the real bounce and the real move up before it was too late. So, but we look at this and say, this was really just all flagging into support, and now it's in an uptrend. And so a lot of names are doing this, a lot of names. Let me see if I can kind of keep thinking about some other ones. But yeah, you guys let me know. Give me any questions or anything else that you guys are looking at. How about, look at this stuff. So I look at this, and here's my point about, it reminds me of the song, what was it? You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. That was like a song from the 90s. And it kind of reminds me of this. Okay, so a name like this doesn't want to go lower, but it doesn't want to go higher either. So I look at this and I say, hey, it's bear market, done. It doesn't want to go lower. It's already been repriced. It's at whatever the market is assessing as fair value. And it's trying to put in a double bottom, and it's trying to go higher, but it's not really doing it. It's just hibernating. So we have to figure out, okay, when are these things going to go up? And you look at the volume that's starting to come into this thing. So it looks to me like big funds are probably accumulating this. And that's what I'd be thinking, that money is rotating into these things. So they're building a position here on a ground floor so that whenever the market does do better and this starts to take off, they've already built their position. Even think about Pinterest. Here you go, Pinterest. That's what I was looking at earlier. Here is that bubble, and they pop the bubble at the top. And you know what? It's been repriced all the way back to its 2020 levels, or prior to 2020. And this thing has been basically hibernating for so long that the monthly 10 SMA is now over, or underpriced. Price is over the monthly 10. So now it's acting as support. Now, would we be able to trade this? No, not really. I mean, look how choppy it is. It's basically been going flat. But if you look at kind of the overall picture of what this thing is doing, it's like, it's building a base. It's hibernating. And I just think that there are quite a few stocks out there that are essentially doing the same thing. Heck, now another one came to mind. Grab. Look at this thing. So this IPO'd, went straight down, of course, IPO'd at the worst time. But look what it's done. Double bottom. And you know what? We have 8 over the 21, and this thing is trying to make progress. As a swing trader, kind of tough. Because if we look down here and look at this daily chart, look at the hourly chart. A little bit challenging to figure out where you want to go in. But if you're an investor or a position trader or something like that, where you can kind of just pick a spot, that would have been a decent spot and you'd be up already. But you might need to also handle this thing pulling back almost all the way where it to began, and then to get a move up. But yeah, it's super choppy in through here. But if you look on a weekly time frame, not looking too bad. Monthly, weekly time frames are kind of telling the story that a lot of these stocks are kind of done going down. SMG is another one I've been talking about. Scott's Miracle-Gro. Yeah, totally got hammered. Absolutely destroyed. Repriced even lower to where it was before 2020. But you know what it's doing? Look at all the volume that's starting to come into this, and that sure looks like a bottoming pattern on the weekly time frame to me. But, is there anything to do with it right now? Maybe if you're an investor and you can kind of just put some money someplace and you can sit on it and say, well, I bought it. Let's see, I bought it in the new year at $53. And if I come back and I check it in 6 months, maybe it's going to be up around $95 and I made 77% in 6 months. Can you do that? If you can, maybe these things are going to be working out for us. How about, what was another one? Toast. Toast looks like Grab. In fact, Toast and Grab, maybe they go together. Grab some toast. Toast is at the little handheld credit card swiper, like when you go to a restaurant and they do the point of sale at your table. You notice the little emblem, it says Toast. So I've used it. But look what happened. IPO'd just like Grab, totally got smashed. I mean, look, went from like $65 down to 20. Okay, so the market has found fair value for these things. And it's been now down for so long that the monthly 10 has now gotten under price. So this is hibernating, it's basing, it's building a support, meaning that these things are starting to get accumulated such that whenever the market says, okay, we're ready to go, they can slowly and quietly start moving up. And you can see the same thing here. Look, it's actually looking pretty good on the weekly time frame. The 8 is over the 21, price is over the 50, price is over the 30. We've got the Moxie price trigger going. And if we look here on the daily chart though, like, man, has there been much to do with this? Like, no, this has all been sideways accumulation, but it doesn't want to go lower. And that's what I'd be looking at. It doesn't want to go lower. And so if you can kind of just buy and hold something here, it might work out for you. Even if the market does want to roll over. Yeah, Tommy Boy, I've been noticing that. I've been watching this on my other screen. So let's take a look at, the SPY. So this is what I was saying this morning. If you guys look, a couple things. Where did the SPY pull back to? The SPY pulled back to the daily 21, the daily 50, and the daily 200. And you know what? Right now, the body of the candle is over the 200. It looks like it's over the 8 EMA, and it's on top of that trend line. Now, again, trend lines, we all can draw our own trend lines, but if the market cares about that trend line I drew, well, price is now back on top of that trend line. So technically, price is on top of all those moving averages now. And again, this was a trampoline move on the daily chart. We also had another trampoline move here on the hourly chart. So this was a pretty stiff move down today, and a lot of names did get hit, and I got stopped out of a few things. And now we're really going to have to view this as a test and say, is this okay? Is the market going to be okay with this? And are buyers going to come in? And is this going to be finding some support in through here? Yeah, so internals, let's just take a look at these kind of internals. This morning, make sure that this is, I'm actually wondering, I was not getting very much. I was a little surprised to see as far as the, advanced decline volume, really very neutral. Like the number was big. It was like -5 to 1 initially, but this has stayed very neutral. So I was kind of looking at it, I was like, is this broken? I was really expecting it to be a little bit more negative based on what I saw today. A little bit more like that. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of selling volume. So right now I'm looking at this and saying, they just kind of drop it and then they might be kind of buying it back up. So it doesn't look too bad. The thing that was bad was right here. If you look at this, this is the number of stocks that are up versus the number of stocks that are down. That's a lot. And a lot of times when you do get a print down here, of course, that means a lot of stocks down and getting hit, but it also means that it can persist. So when you get something down here, it's like a trending day to the downside. However, that's not really what we're getting. And it does look like it's recovering. And again, the order flow isn't too bad, isn't too negative. So, the internals are not too bad today. And that's why I'm kind of like, let's see. Today's a test. Today is a test for the market. Now, if you want to look at, say, other internals, let's do this real quick. And then I got to get going. Copy, copy, copy. There we go. And this is one thing I like to look at. So this is the number of stocks over their number of stocks in the S&P over their 100 simple moving average. We're pretty high. Now, it could be argued, like the next thing I'm going to be showing you, it could be argued that they're so high that were extended were going to roll over. Okay. Or it could mean we're actually doing pretty well and that there is broad-based support, meaning that there are a lot of stocks doing well. And I look at something like this, the 200, that's pretty good. That is a solid number of stocks that are over their 200-day SMA, which is also the same as their monthly 10 SMA. That's a lot of participation. And there's more participation now than there was in August. And the market's lower than it was in August. So internally, the market is stronger than it was in August. And we look at the number of stocks over their 50. Now, it's not excessive. It's kind of like right in the sweet spot. And if it can kind of maintain this, then it seems to me that the internals are going to be staying strong. And, the post that I sent you guys this morning about looking at the internals and stuff, I want to see if this maintains. So if the market continues to flag sideways and recover, I want to see this continue to stay elevated. But if we notice that this starts to drop off, even though the market might be going up, that's a problem. So that's telling us that even though the market might be going sideways to up, internally fewer and fewer stocks are participating and they're starting to trend down. That's going to be a bad thing. So I'm going to be watching stuff like this to see if it holds or folds. And that'll help give us a little bit of guidance. But yeah, today was a little bit more of a down day than I was expecting. But so far, it's recovering. So we'll have to see what we want to do about that. All right, guys. Thanks again. Catch you later. And if you have any questions, come over here to profitpilot.com or simplertrading.com. That's where you guys can find anything about me. And then we'll see you next week.